But we need to go, first of all, to the big story. And as expected, earlier today, David Moyes was reinstalled after 11 years away as the new manager of Everton. That's after Sean Dyche was relieved of his duties on Thursday. He signed a 2.5-year contract. Everton in a whole heap of problems at the moment. They're sitting 16th in the Premier League. They're only 1 point clear of the relegation zone. They got past Peterborough United a couple of nights ago in the FA Cup third round. Merson, I want to come to you first on this. We will, of course, talk about Sean Dyche, where it went wrong, and whether it's the right time or not for him to be relieved of his duties. But just picking up on some comments that David Moyes will no doubt have been reminded of a number of times already this morning. He said very recently, he was very open about his desire to return to football. He said, I don't want to be at the bottom of the league and fighting relegation, which I've had a few times. So we'll see how things go. That's exactly what he's now got at his old club, Everton. Oh,
100%. There's no doubt they're in a relegation battle. They can't score a goal, losing games for fun. You know, don't even really look like scoring a goal. People, you know, mixed reviews on it about him coming back.
What are your thoughts? Good move or bad move by him, first of all?
I think by both. I think, one, you don't go back, in my opinion. I think you don't go back. But the thing is like, people going, oh, he's going back, he knows the club inside out. He left 11 years ago.
Yeah.
11 years ago. I mean, it's ridiculous. And when I look at it as well, you know, they're similar managers. They both set up, they make sure they don't get beat before they win. They want to keep it tight, and they play with what they've got. But you look at this team and you're like, if you're a manager, sometimes you come into a job and the team are struggling and you'll have a couple of players that are out the team, fell out of favour with the manager who you might like. He hasn't got that at Everton.
Yeah.
This is the team. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I think it's a bit... I like David Moyes, don't get me wrong. But I just, you know, people got to remember, 11 years ago. 11 years. A lot has changed.
Who would you have gone and got?
I would have gone, if he wanted it, and I'm looking at the all-round picture for the future as well. I mean, I'm not just talking about the next 3 or 4 months. I'm talking about over a few. I'd have gone and seen about Lee Carsley. I'd have seen if Lee Carsley was up for it, if he was prepared to come and manage Everton.
Someone you know well, Clinton, would that have been a good move?
Yeah, it would have been a brilliant move. I think Lee Carsley, I think Merson makes a good point. I think he would have been brilliant. But I think he likes his job. He's doing it with the England under-21s. But eventually, obviously, when an opportunity like comes to come to a big club like Everton, it'd probably be hard for him to turn that down, because he played there. He had good years there playing centre midfield for them. And I think he's a brilliant young manager that's he's on the up and he's going to get better and better. But at the moment, he's obviously with the England under-21s. But a player and a manager like Lee Carsley, I would have thought would have been a perfect fit for Everton. But that's not saying I think David Moyes will go in there and do well with that football club. But Mercy's right. It is 11, 12 years ago, so it's a long time. A lot of things have changed at that football club. But, yeah, they are in a relegation battle at the moment.
Dawes very keen to leap in, but we need to go to Sue before she gets eyes down to watch Liverpool against Accrington Stanley in Wilmslow. Sue, Merce mentions that, listen, he does know the club well. But the club he knew well, we're talking about 11 years ago. He comes into a club with a very different backdrop, a new stadium on the way at the start of next season. And as we've already mentioned, he joins a club that right now, as things stand, are very much in a relegation battle. So for you, is this a good or a bad move by the club?
See, for me, I think it's a good move. I can completely understand why the club went for David Moyes. You looked at... Yes, it's 11 years ago, but I just think he does know the club. I think he knows the Premier League, so he's gained that experience. When I've watched Everton, you know, I hate to say about a manager going, but the time had to come for Sean Dyche to go. Everton were drifting. We praised the points that they got against Manchester City, against Arsenal, against Chelsea, where they were defensively really sound and really well organised. We praised Jordan Pickford. But it was the attack that was the real problem, that struggled to see any sort of patterns of play. When they went forward and got themselves into promising positions, it just broke down. And I know Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Beto as strikers have had a lot of criticism. And yes, they should have done better. They'll know that. But I think also the service to them has been awful. So David Moyes needs to come in. I know that he's a pragmatic manager. So he's going to continue with that defensive structure, make sure that defensively Everton are sound. But he's got to improve an attacking output. And the fans are split. You know, I've spoken to a lot of Evertonians. Some Evertonians are saying, well, the way that he left wasn't the way that they wanted him to leave. He tried to pinch some of the Everton players, the Fellaini and Leighton Baines when he went to Manchester United. But I just think you look at the time that he was at Everton, it was a success. They were in the top half of the table. You know, they got top 4, they got to FA Cup final. And that's, as an Everton fan, that's what I remember. And I remember that success. And Everton fans would be desperate for that right now. So I think he comes into the football club and I think he's a safe pair of hands. And I think if they'd have gone risky, it would have been a massive risk because of where Everton are at the moment. So I'm happy, but I know there will be some Everton fans that are a little bit unsure, but I suppose it's how he, you know, approaches the first game, and the first game's against Aston Villa midweek, which will be tough for him.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And just picking up on a couple of things you said, because you look at the Ruben Amorim situation at Manchester United, OK, much better in the last game away to Liverpool, but a manager can only be as good as the tools he has available. When you look at the goal-scoring department that you rightly pick out, no wins in the last 5 Premier League games. They've scored 1 single goal. As he looks around that dressing room for the first time ahead of that game against Villa in a couple of days' time, in terms of the tools he has, can he really do much more than we saw from Sean Dyche?
Well, he clearly thinks that he can do that. I think Sean Dyche obviously coming out and sort of, well, or so we've heard, that he took Everton as far as he thought he could take them. The problem when I watched Everton was the lack of patterns of play when they went forward. That was the thing. You watch them and it was very limited. So defensively, they were sound, they were structured, they were organised, they had a good shape. But when they went forward, it was that lack of ideas and, yes, that lack of quality. But you just feel, can David Moyes come in there with new messages? It's a new voice, galvanising the fans, because the stadium's been really quiet lately. I think the fans are just fed up with everything that's happened. And we have to praise Sean Dyche in what he did in difficult circumstances, with the points deduction, with the ownership, the takeover. That was so difficult, keeping Everton in the Premier League. So you have to thank him for that. But I just think the time was right for a new voice to come in, an experienced manager that he'll have watched Everton, he'll know exactly what he needs to do to get that attacking output better, because, you know, 15 goals in 19 games just isn't good enough. They need to turn some of those draws into wins, and he will believe, with the experience that he's got, what he's done at Everton in the past, what he's done at West Ham. When he went into West Ham, they were struggling relegation. He got them to, you know, go and win the Conference League final. So he knows how to do it. So he will back himself, and you just feel, will it give those Everton players that lift, those ideas that maybe they've needed for a period of time?
Right, let's get the thoughts of some of the other guys on Everton. Lee, I want to come to you. Just picked up on what Sue was hearing from there. I mean, he signed a 2.5-year deal. We were thinking maybe, when the conjecture was building, that he'd go back, that it might be a fix till the end of the season. It's 2.5 years. In terms of the club as a whole, and what we've seen in recent seasons, the backdrop that Sean Dyche has had to work with and against at times, is this a backwards or a progressive step by Everton?
I think it's the same. I think it's just that. I think it's on an even keel. I really do. I do feel that offering him that sort of amount of time on a contract, I actually have to ponder over it, because I just think you're giving someone 2.5 years to come in. What is he actually going to do different to Sean Dyche? And that's my first and foremost thought about it, is that I don't think he will do a lot different. He'll be defensive. He will be pragmatic. That's exactly what he is. But what is he going to take the club further forward with that squad of players? Mercer just touched. It's going to be the same team. It's going to be probably the same sort of formation. What he had at West Ham was he had the luxury of going and buying players, and that's why I think he was successful at West Ham. But my thought is, why don't they go somewhere? Why don't they go something different? I mean, Lee Carsley would have been a great shape, because it's fresh, new ideas. They're taking a backward step for me, I feel. And I'm not saying that Moyes is a bad manager. I just feel that going back is always going to be tough. He's got the same squad. I don't see what difference that's going to make. You may as well have kept Sean Dyche till the end of the season. I think what they've done is they panicked that Wolves have made a bit of a move.
And Ipswich as well, beginning to find a little bit of
Ipswich are
form.
finding a float. Southampton are... Listen, you may as well...
But that does change owners' thinking, isn't it? They see the teams below them beginning to start picking up points.
Yeah, but if you can go with something that you're going to go where all the fans are going to go, oh, this is fresh idea, this is a new thing that we're coming into. I don't think that's the case here. I think Moyes is coming in, and it's going to be so similar to what Dyche does. I really do, and that's why I feel that... I'm not saying it's a bad call, but I still think that, you know, we might end up keeping him. It'll be a fresh voice in the change. Sue just said that, it's a fresh voice in the change room. That's probably about all I could say about this move for David Moyes coming into Everton. And that's where I feel that I think they should have gone
Fixtures
somewhere.
are easy coming up, aren't they?
Wow.
Good luck with them ones,
Easy.
especially with Villa.
Yeah, I mean, that's coming up midweek. I mean, the players are in. The players also are in training today in the chill, getting ready for that game against Aston Villa. In terms of his remit, it feels that the bigger questions in terms of what this looks like long term come at the start of next season, because his remit will be, and that's why I agree with what Lee was saying there about Sean Dyche. It's make sure, and Dyche has got a proven record on this, you keep them in the Premier League, you make sure you go to the new stadium as a Premier League club and not a Championship club. But it's really what happens to Everton under Moyes beyond the end of this season. That's the bigger question, isn't it?
Yeah, and the owners can't be thinking of that. It's now, and it's all about being in the Premier League at the end of this season. That's all.
But therefore, Dyche has proved he can keep them in the Premier League. So why not stay with him, make the decision in the summer?
Fair comment. I think David Moyes is a fresh voice. That can be the only reason, because I'm on Sue's side. I really am. I like what she said about. I think it's a sideways step. I don't think it's back. I don't think it's forward. I think it's a straight sideways. It's going to be exactly the same. And Sean Dyche has been criticised about not scoring goals, being pragmatic. I think at the start of the season, in the first 4 games, they conceded 13 goals by trying to be a little bit more expansive. And then they just lost 4 on the bounce. Everyone's questioning, will they sack him? So he's had to change. He's not got the players. He has not physically got the players.
So had he taken Everton as far as he could?
Yeah, I don't know
based on what he has.
Yeah, I do believe that. But I don't believe David Moyes will take them any further forward. Do I believe they'll stay up? It's a big question mark now because of what the teams below are doing. And that is my concern. I've never really feared for Everton getting relegated because I always thought they could win a game. But I'm starting to get concerned now. And I think the owners have done that. The new ownership have come in and thought, we need to make a change. I don't see them playing in any different way or getting any major results changing unless they go out into this transfer market and sign some major players. They've scored 15 Premier League goals. There's only Southampton who have done worse. But you've got to remember last year, they stayed up. There was only Sheffield United who'd scored lesser goals than them.
Well, they had an 8 points deduction.
You know what?
Exactly.
You know what? Merson made a good point upstairs. It's like, and you've all said it here, they haven't got any other players. If you think about it, like, you know when a new manager comes in and you're a player and you've been frozen out and you've not been playing, you're thinking, I might get a chance. All the players have been given opportunities and they're not delivering at the moment. I do think Moyes will keep Everton up. I do think they'll stay up. I do actually think they'll stay up because, as you said, it's a different voice. Yeah. Maybe sometimes you get bored of the same voice, but it's going to be a struggle for them, though. It's going to go right down to the wire. It's going to go right down to the wire.
I'm a big Sean Dyche fan. I've always said it. We've had discussions off air, and he does what he says on the tin. That's what he's about. You saw what he did at Burnley, keeping teams in the Premier League. I know he took them down. He overachieved, in my opinion, there. And then he went into a club that's, like you said last year, 8 points deduction and stayed up comfortably, because there comes a point where you'll start getting results. And he's had them. Yes, they don't score a lot of goals, but you've got to look to the players. Why is this? They've never had goal scorers. They brought Brozier in, injured. Beto, they spent way over the market for him. Calvert-Lewin a few years ago, people were looking, thinking, oh, big player. He's gone off the rails. He's had injuries. He's not at the form. They just can't score goals. They haven't got creative players.
Well, their top scorer in the last 10 games is a defender, Craig Dawson, with a whopping 2. I mean, Merce, just a final word on Sean Dyche before we finish off with David Moyes. How should his period as Everton manager be judged? Bearing in mind the backdrop, bearing in mind the lack of money. He saved them in his first season in charge on the final day against Bournemouth. As Dawson's been saying, he keeps them away from relegation last season, despite an 8-point deduction. Yes, you can criticise the style all you like, but in terms of how he should be remembered as an Everton boss, how will he?
Personally, I'm not an Everton fan, but from a distance, I would say he's done an amazing job there. I would say, but every Everton fan who goes every week probably be shouting at the telly now, going, oh, you didn't have to watch this, this and that. So I understand that. But I've watched them enough. He's thick-skinned, like David Moyes is. I think that's important. I think you go there, because I was up there the other week with Chelsea to watch Chelsea play against Everton. It was dire. It was dire. And I talked to a couple of Everton fans after, and they said it's like this every week.
Yeah.
I don't see it changing. I just see at the moment, I see Ipswich having a go, scoring goals, getting results. I'm worried. I think he's done a great job. I'm a big fan of Sean Dyche. He does what it says on the tin. I don't know if he can go. I know people say, oh, you know, and you hear him go, oh, if he had better players, he'd play a different way. He's been in football, how long now, manager? 15 years? He's played the same way every time. You know, he was at Burnley. He didn't really go and get a number 10 who was flary or someone who was just a free spirit. He's always played the same way, you know, and I think that's been his problem. I think the fans have got sour, but he should walk away from their proud because he kept them up last year when they looked like they were well down.
Does anyone, final question, think that Moyes won't keep them up this season?
Yeah, I do.
You don't think he will?
Oh, I've seen Everton too many times. They've scored one goal. I mean, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
He's got the same players.
Well, it's what I mentioned as soon.
He's exactly the same players, as I keep on saying.
The same.
You know, sometimes people come in and they do come in and, you know, you come into a club like, you know, you could go into Man United tomorrow, and you go, Rashford's not playing. If I can get him back on side, do you know what I mean? I've got a world-class player on his day.
So you share Merson's?
I do, yeah. I mean, I've watched Leicester.
And the fixtures ain't good.
The fixture, but I've watched Leicester as well, and you know, they look like they are going to turn a corner. I think they've got better quality in that squad. Ipswich are turning a corner. I think this, for me, is a bit of a negative move. I really do. I think if they'd have gone for someone a little bit out of the box, which would have given them a different idea, but I think this really could come back and bite them.
And breaking news is that Everton has just signed 2 centre forwards.
No chance. They can't do
So
that,
now
can
do you
they?
change your mind?
Clinton now.
I'm joking.